Oh, here, this is what I wanted to watch. Our boy Mehdi Hasan, the better Hassan, absolutely annihilating Jonathan Concuncurius.
For Defense of Democracies and the former IDF spokesperson, retired Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Concuncurius, also with us, the editor-in-chief and CEO of Zateo, Mehdi Hasan. Mehdi, I know you have an exclusive report about a letter that Republican senators sent to the International Criminal Court. We will get to that in just a few minutes, but I want to ask you about this reporting about Hamas saying publicly they've agreed to a ceasefire deal, but it's really kind of a counterproposal that they have that includes elements that they know Israel never agreed to. So was this some kind of propaganda effort by Hamas to say we're at the table, we're agreeing?
I like that they got him. They got Frankenstein's monster doing this for fun now. He's like, yes, I retired, but I still love defending Israel, killing terror babies.
Into something?
Well, look, the reporting we have says that, yes, it was an Egyptian Qatari proposal that the Americans were involved in too. I mean, the CIA director Bill Burns has been involved in this. The Israelis apparently were on board until, of course, Hamas agreed. And then the Israelis' bluff was called. And now they're saying, well, we don't agree to this proposal because we want to free the hostages, even though the...
Just wait until he starts talking, and then you will know I'm not exaggerating his accent.
Proposal would help free the hostages.
Can I just pause you there for a second?
The Israeli newspaper.
I just want to.
Oh, yeah. Shut the up, Mehdi Hasan. Let me butt in here and defend Israel. Do a little bit of Israel writing. I, Abby Phillips, am demanding you shut up real quick so I can, shove some pro-Israel sentiment here.
Add one bit of information I think is critical here. The part that Israel didn't agree to is the part that calls for a permanent end to the war. And I think this is really what is at issue here, that Israel has never agreed to that. And that...
Yeah. Do you think that that's a decent thing? Like, do you think that that's a decent idea? Do you think that that's a solid, responsible, moral counter here? That's awesome. Thank you, Abby Phillips.
Maybe this is a counter proposal, but that means essentially that everybody has to get back to the table and agree to what is on the table now.
Yeah, but let me just say, in what world is Hamas going to say, we're going to release all the hostages and you carry on killing us? Obviously, outside world, America, Western countries has been wanting a ceasefire for a while. We were told Hamas was the obstacle, and now they're calling Israel's bluff. The reality is, Abby, that the obstacle to a hostage deal has always been Benjamin Netanyahu, and those are not my words. Those are the words of Chaim Rubinstein, the former spokesperson for the hostages family, who told the Israeli press last week that Netanyahu's been the obstacle. He says that they found out there was a deal on the table back on October 9th, 10th. To get hostages released, but Netanyahu hid it from them. Those are the words of the spokesperson for the Israeli families of the hostages. And he hid it from them because he knows that if he agrees to a hostage deal, his fascist colleagues in his coalition government will collapse his government. This is Israeli domestic politics.
Lieutenant Colonel, what about that? I mean, if the hostages are all released, shouldn't Israel seriously consider ending hostilities in Gaza and allowing for a political settlement that leads to the future?
Yeah, I'm listening to the second edition of Mehdi Hasan's monologue that I saw earlier, and it's not surprising.
And of course, he seems very Arab once again, even when he is on CNN.
That you're parroting Hamas talking points. Let's put things here in perspective. We have a terrorist organization that abducted civilians and soldiers. They're the ones for the last 4 months have been refusing any deal that Israel, the US, Qatar, Egypt, and others have.
Yeah, it turns out my Israeli accent wasn't that off base here, huh? Chatters.
Put forward. And now, when push comes to shove, and when they see Israeli tanks lined up on their way to Rafah, all of a sudden they are agreeing. They're agreeing to something that wasn't on the table. And it's quite absurd that this is even how it's covered. And it's classic deception 101 by an organization that is very savvy in deception and unfortunately has figureheads and mouthpieces all over Western media doing their work, whether it's Al Jazeera or other places, and getting that message out that Israel is the problem when Israeli civilians and soldiers are the ones that have been abducted.
I'll let Mehdi respond to that.
So I think all of your viewers saw me quote the spokesperson for the Israeli hostages' families. And the colonel then said, I'm parroting Hamas talking points. He's referring to the hostages' families as Hamas, as parroting Hamas talking points, because I quote
own this fraudulent, freakish monster, Frankenstein's monster looking cop phenotype piece of Mehdi Hasan. Do it. Own his. Oh my God. Demolish his entire existence like it's a Bedouin village inside of the 1967 Israel boundaries. Demolish it.
Quoted them. I didn't quote Hamas. In fact, tonight, the colonel knows that hundreds of people went to Netanyahu's house and screamed, "You have blood on your hands." Israeli protesters. I guess they're all Hamas, right? The Israeli position now is anyone who disagrees with them is Hamas. I'm guessing that tomorrow they'll say CIA Director Bill Burns, who was involved in this hostage negotiation deal, he's Hamas too. Everyone's Hamas. And as for deception, I mean, come on. The colonel was a spokesperson for the IDF, which has spent the last 6 months lying. Abby, your network has debunked multiple lies that the Israeli military has told. CNN's Jeremy Diamond, I urge all your viewers to go and watch your colleague Jeremy Diamond's report on 10 kids killed in the Al-Maghazi refugee camp last month. The Israelis said we had nothing to do with it. And yet Jeremy interviewed 3 munitions experts who looked at the evidence and said, yeah.
Oh my God. I thought he cooked him so hard he turned off his camera, bro. That's so funny. Oh, damn. That would have been even better if he was like, I am leaving. Why did you put me against this terrorist?
Israel killed those 10 kids. So when we talk about deception, we're learning from the masters here.
Look, Lieutenant Colonel, the hostage families are urging the government at this point to come forward and release the hostages as part of some kind of deal. One of the things that the families have said is that they feel like they are being abandoned. How do you respond to that, given that they are
Hamas. They are defending Hamas. The Israeli hostage families are defending Hamas. After all, the family members are with Hamas inside of Gaza. This means they are also Hamas. Everyone inside of Gaza is Hamas. Hamas. Hamas.
are opportunities, it seems, to
Yeah. Uglier Thanos over
take
here.
a deal that would stop the fighting in exchange for getting their loved ones home.
Come here. Come here. Hi.
Lieutenant Colonel, I'm not sure you could hear me. Can you hear me now?
Oh, no.
I think we're going to try to get him back. But Mehdi, I do want to get back to one other aspect of this, which is from Israel's perspective, they want to make sure that Hamas is not in a position to ever attack them again. And I think you would agree that that's a reasonable position for them to have. So hostages all being returned, if they say that's not enough, I mean, Hamas, it seems like, shouldn't be in a position to be dictating the terms of their own surrender in a war that they started.
So it's a good question, Abby, and it's a reasonable goal. Of course it is. But if you don't want Hamas to be in a position to attack you again, maybe you shouldn't energize and embolden Hamas. This entire conflict has turned Palestinians in the entire region against Israel. It's made Israelis less safe, not more safe. It's obviously killed tens of thousands of Palestinians. And Israel has a right to say, OK, we don't want to be attacked again. But at what cost? 34,000 Palestinians dead, tens of thousands more under the rubble, 14,500 children dead, 1.2 million people hiding out in Rafah and now being told to move, to be relocated, 600,000 children. Abby, UNICEF say you cannot move 600,000 children, many of whom are sick, wounded, malnourished. They say it'll be a catastrophe. There is no safe zone to go to. It's the most Orwellian phrase that Israeli spokespersons use. There is nowhere safe in Gaza. So, of course, Israel wants to reasonably not be attacked again. But doing this doesn't work, and it's morally unsustainable.
Looks like we have Jonathan Conricus back. Lieutenant Colonel, I do want to talk about this Rafah invasion that seems to be on the horizon here. Our colleague Barak Ravid is reporting that sources tell him that Israeli forces are going to take over the Palestinian side of the Rafah crossing between Egypt and Gaza. We're already seeing what seems...
Dude, this is so phenomenal. Mehdi Hasan cooked them so hard, he caused them to disconnect. And then spent the rest of the time still continuing to talk about the Palestinian emancipation and how ridiculous of an idea is that Israel's suggesting that, like, yeah, here's a deal for you guys. We get the hostages back and then we keep killing the Palestinians. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, we kill them even harder now because there are no Israeli hostages there. So we just go even harder than we have, which I don't even know if it's physically possible to go harder than they have since October 7th.
Like,
I guess they could just like nuke the entire strip, but then they would hurt the Gaza envelope, which is a part of the Israel boundaries. But, you know, as we have seen time and time again since October 7, Israel doesn't really give a about even Israeli citizens, even Israeli Jews. They do not care to protect as much as they want to massacre Palestinians. So
Netanyahu has managed to kill a lot of Palestinians and destroy a lot of Gaza while maintaining his power and working with the war cabinet. But recently he has come under a lot of pressure from other allies like United States and even within his own party. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant from Netanyahu's own party, Likud, has criticized Netanyahu's plan for the future of Gaza. Gallant urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to declare publicly that Israel has no plans to take over civilian and military rule in Gaza. Gallant said that he has raised this issue consistently in the cabinet and he has received no response. Netanyahu indirectly responded to Yoav Gallant by saying that he does not want to replace Hamastan by Fatahstan. Some US policymakers were considering the idea that Fatah would rule over Gaza after this war ends. So this was a direct response to them saying that Netanyahu would not accept that.
bombs falling there tonight. Why is Israel doing this when they know that there is no safe place, as Mehdi was saying, for civilians to go? And Rafah is the place that initially the Israeli government told them to go.
hi.
Yeah, I would take everything that my respected colleague to the panel here says with a lot of pinches of salt. Lots of untruths were said when I was on air and off air, and I won't give them credibility by repeating them. What I'll say is this. Rafah is a place where Hamas...
I don't know if you know this, Abi. He is an Arab. If you haven't noticed, he is looking very much like Hamas himself.
And
he is Muslim after all. He cannot be trusted.
thing that my respected colleague to the panel here says with a lot of pinches of salt. Lots of untruths were said when I was on air and off air, and I won't give them credibility by repeating them. What I'll say is this. Rafah is a place where Hamas and UNRWA has told people to go. The sad reality in Gaza is that Hamas uses these civilians as human shields and doesn't leave Israel with any other option but to ask people to leave. Now, Israel is doing that out of concern for human life and their safety.
Lieutenant Colonel, I have to stop you there because the IDF told Gazan civilians to move to the south. Rafah was the only safe place,
Correct.
supposedly safe place for them to go. So this is not about UNRWA. This is actually where they are going because the rest of the country is in rubble. So where are they supposed to go now?
Right. So there are various locations in Gaza, a few miles northeast of Rafah and northwest of Rafah, close to
Rafah? Rafah?
Khan Yunis, where they can go, and hopefully they will go. And I agree. I take the point.
Abi, you do not understand. There are plenty of places that they can go to. That's not Rafah, which we previously said was actually a safe zone. Turns out it is a safe zone for Hamas, safe for terror.
That it is a harsh environment and not an ideal environment for anybody to live in. I wouldn't want to be there, to be frank. But the sad reality is that the responsibility for this situation lies on Hamas's shoulders. And I think that if we detach ourselves from agendas and ideas and Israel hatred, and if we look at the situation from a, let's say, a more clean perspective, what choice does Israel have? What choice does Israel have in order to defend its civilians in their homes? If Hamas is allowed to continue to exist, to store weapons, and to prepare for the next attack, then it is only a matter of time before these attacks will come. And those are not my words, Mehdi. Those are the words of Hamas leaders who say that we will do October 7 again and again until we reach Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And I don't think that Israel should allow that to happen. And if it means, sadly, moving people around before combat starts and making sure that they are...
Listen, the civilians will keep getting slaughtered until morale improves. I'm sorry, Abi, but we have to kill the terror babies. It makes us feel very good. We have to move them and we have to kill them.
Safer, not safe, but safer, away from harm's way by telegraphing.
I like that he says he also openly admits it's not safe. It's not safe. Khan Yunis is not safe. We are also bombing Khan Yunis because, as you know, Abby, Khan Yunis also is the epicenter of Hamas. Hamas terror is very much happening in Khan Yunis as well, which is why we will move the terrorists, the Palestinians to Khan Yunis, and we will bomb them while they're on their way to Khan Yunis and also when they're at Khan Yunis.
Israeli intentions, then I think that is a very humane thing to do. Hamas sadly must be defeated.
I do need to move on, but I just want to say one thing. I mean, this is not a question of hating Israel. It's a question of the reality on the ground, which is that there is already a humanitarian catastrophe unfolding in Gaza, and there's no question that trying to move over 1 million people in short period of times is not going to be something that is feasible. But Mehdi, I have to get to your reporting, and I do want to talk.
Been proven wrong.
I do want to talk.
I don't agree, and that has been proven wrong.
You don't agree that there's a humanitarian catastrophe occurring right now in Gaza?
No, I don't agree. No, I don't agree.
That's insane, dude. Do a Nick Mullen accent of Adam Friedland. Good one, dude. Good one, chatter. Nick Mullen is technically pretty go-to with the accents too. Like, I mean, he is one of the few people that, as a white boy, does, like, I would say, a fairly solid Nigerian accent.
That it cannot be done because these were the same lines that were told. These were the same things that were told to Israel before Israel started its invasion of Gaza City. Right. And believe me, I answered that question hundreds, if not thousands of times. And it was alleged that this was tantamount to war crime, that we were asking people to move, when in fact it was possible. 900,000 out of 1.1 million people did eventually move, and it saved a lot of people's lives. And I think that should be acknowledged. And the same talking
I mean, he's right. It's devastating.
Being repeated now by the same Hamas mouthpieces.
Mehdi, you could respond.
Please go ahead.
One move, bro. One move. His skull is so goddamn thick and so goddamn dense. It's so funny that they got a cop to do the PR for the Israeli genocide. You know, like, Hamas mouthpieces. It's like, dude, you have nothing. You literally have nothing. He just only says Hamas, Hamas, Hamas over and over again. You have to be a real dumb to literally listen to these heads for the past 7.5 months consistently cry that anyone and everyone that stands in their way, that calls out what they're doing as genocidal, which it is objectively, Hamas, Hamas, Hamas over and over again, all the way from the actual Hamas members, okay, down to the UN, and even now the Columbia University and UCLA and American college campus protesters. Everyone has been called Hamas. The International Criminal Court is Hamas. The International Court of Justice is Hamas. UN is Hamas. UNRWA is Hamas. Hostage families that are demanding that their family members return. Hamas. So of course, dude, you know, if you, at this point, if you think that any of this is valid, you are probably hallucinating. Anyone, and everyone. Yeah, Hamas doesn't know about Bryce from UCLA protesting. Hamas doesn't even know about Bryce. Spain, Ireland, believe it or not, Hamas. If you think Palestinian children deserve cookies, you are Hamas.
NBC News reported last month, Abby, that 7 different airstrikes from Israel took place in what were designated as safe zones by Israel. Palestinians were told to go to safe zones by Israel and then killed in those safe zones by Israel. That's reporting from NBC News, but I'm sure the colonel would say they're Hamas as well. Everyone who disagrees with the colonel is Hamas. And by the way, he's quoting a Hamas spokesman. None of us like Hamas, but let's quote someone on his side, the Likud Party International Vice Chairman, Netanyahu's party. He said a couple of days ago, the Likud Party Vice Chair, Colonel, you can respond to this quote. The Likud Party Vice Chair, International Vice Chair, said on Israeli TV a couple of days ago, there are no uninvolved civilians in Rafah. No, there are no innocent people in Rafah, 1.2 million. No innocent people, and we should go in, these are his words, and kill and kill and kill. Sounds pretty genocidal.
That sounds like he's also Hamas.
To me, Colonel. Do you agree with that?
I agree that those are comments that are horrible and shouldn't be thought and shouldn't be said. And I'm happy that I don't have to explain the Likud party or whoever that is that you're sourcing, and haven't heard the quote. But I can tell you what the chief of staff, the guy that is responsible for the use of force in Gaza, and he speaks relentlessly about not killing civilians, and he gives orders not to kill
It's just nobody listens to him, I guess.
civilians,
Well,
and he
you're not
gives
doing a
orders
very
and
good
directives
job of
to
it,
the
are
troops
you?
on the ground
14,000 dead kids.
to apply distinction and to apply proportionality. And speaking about safe zones, yesterday 4 soldiers were killed when mortars were fired from Rafah, from a safe zone, at Israeli soldiers. And I'm sure that wouldn't bother you too much that 4 soldiers are killed, but they were killed, fired from a safe zone in Rafah. Happened yesterday. I don't have an MSNBC report to quote it, but it happened nevertheless.
All right, guys, I have to leave it there. Mehdi, you have some really important reporting about a letter from Republican lawmakers to the ICC about the possibility of arrest warrants for Israelis as it relates to war crimes. You can go onto Zateo's website to find that reporting, but unfortunately we are out of time here. Mehdi Hasan, Jonathan Conricus, thank you both for an important conversation.
Not only Yoav Galant but other members like Benny Gantz has also disagreed with Netanyahu in the past. Benny Gantz agreed with the defense minister, saying that Galant speaks the truth. It is the leadership's responsibility to do the right thing for the country at all costs. Galant said that his defense establishment has presented a war plan to the cabinet as early as the night when Israel's ground invasion of Gaza began last October. The plans were related to establishing a local, non-hostile Palestinian governing alternative to Hamas. He said that the only way forward after this war is to have Palestinian entities taking control of Gaza accompanied by international actors. Garan said that these proposals were not taken seriously by Netanyahu and that no alternatives were given to him. He said that he will not agree with the establishment of Israeli military rule in Gaza. Israel must not establish civilian rule in Gaza, Golan said. If you found this video informative, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and thanks for watching.